A world divided, the dawn of the Cold War. The Cold War, a global standoff, two superpowers, the United States and the Soviet Union. It lasted nearly half a century. It shaped the world as we know it. The Cold War was not a hot war. There were no direct military confrontations between the two superpowers, but it was a time of intense rivalry. There was political tension. There was military buildup. There was a constant threat of nuclear annihilation. The world watched and waited. Would these two superpowers destroy each other? And in doing so, would they destroy the entire world? The Cold War was a time of fear. It was a time of uncertainty, but it was also a time of great technological advancement. And it was a time of profound political change. This is the story of the Cold War. Seeds of conflict. Roots of the US-Soviet standoff. The Cold War emerged from the ashes of World War II. The US and the Soviet Union had been allies. They had fought together against Nazi Germany. But victory brought new tensions. The US championed democracy and capitalism. The Soviet Union promoted communism. These two ideologies were fundamentally opposed. Mistrust grew between the two superpowers. The Soviet Union, devastated by war, sought to secure its borders. It established satellite states in Eastern Europe. The US saw this as Soviet expansionism. It responded with the Truman Doctrine. This policy pledged support to countries resisting communism. The stage was set for a global standoff. From Berlin to space flashpoints of a frozen war, the Cold War was marked by a series of crises. Each brought the world closer to the brink. The Berlin blockade from 1948 to 1949 was the first major confrontation. The Soviet Union blocked access to West Berlin. The US responded with a massive airlift. The Korean War from 1950 to 1953 was another flashpoint. North Korea, backed by the Soviet Union, invaded South Korea. The US intervened, supporting the South. The war ended in a stalemate, but it deepened the Cold War divide. The Cuban Missile Crisis in 1962 was perhaps the most dangerous moment. The Soviet Union placed nuclear missiles in Cuba. This was a direct threat to the US. The world held its breath as President John F. Kennedy and Soviet Premier Nikita Khrushchev negotiated a solution. Disaster was averted, but the crisis highlighted the terrifying stakes of the Cold War. Section 4. Living in the Shadow, the Cold War's Global Reach. The Cold War was not confined to Europe or North America. It cast a long shadow across the globe. The two superpowers competed for influence. They supported proxy wars in Asia, Africa, and Latin America. The Cold War also had a profound impact on daily life. People lived with the constant threat of nuclear war. Duck and cover drills became commonplace. Governments built bomb shelters. The fear of espionage was rampant. The Cold War fueled an arms race. Both sides amassed huge nuclear arsenals. It also drove technological innovation. The space race, for example, led to remarkable advances in rocketry and space exploration. Section 5. The Wall Crumbles, a New World Order. By the 1980s, the Soviet Union was beginning to crumble. Economic stagnation and political repression took their toll. The leadership of Mikhail Gorbachev ushered in a period of reform, but it was too late. In 1989, the Berlin Wall fell. This was a symbolic end to the Cold War. 2 years later, the Soviet Union itself dissolved. The Cold War was over. The US had emerged as the sole superpower. The end of the Cold War marked the beginning of a new era. It brought hope for a more peaceful world, but it also brought new challenges. The post-Cold War world has been shaped by globalization, terrorism, and the rise of new powers. The legacy of the Cold War is complex and enduring.